You made the safe choice. That's what you told yourself at the time. It felt responsible. It felt smart. You looked at the risk in front of you and you stepped back. And in that moment, stepping back felt exactly like the right thing to do. But here's what nobody tells you about playing it safe with money. Playing it safe has a cost too. It's just a cost you never see on a receipt. Think about the last time you avoided a financial decision because it felt too risky. Maybe you left money sitting in a savings account for years. Maybe you never opened a brokerage account because the market felt unpredictable. Maybe you turned down an opportunity because you weren't sure enough. You called it caution. You called it wisdom. But there's another name for it, and behavioral economists have been studying it for decades. They call it loss aversion, and it may be the most expensive financial instinct you have. In the 1970s, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky ran a series of experiments that changed how economists understood human decision-making. They discovered something counterintuitive. People don't evaluate gains and losses equally. Losing $100 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. The brain processes financial loss and financial gain in completely different emotional registers. Loss hits harder. Fear of loss drives behavior more powerfully than the prospect of gain. This is not a character flaw. It is a wiring issue. Your brain was designed to avoid danger, and it treats financial risk the same way it treats physical threat. That same mechanism that once kept your ancestors alive at the edge of a forest is now keeping your money frozen in a savings account, earning almost nothing. The problem is that in the modern financial world, the real danger often isn't where your brain thinks it is. Consider what researchers call the hidden opportunity cost. Every time you choose safety, you are also choosing to give something up. When you leave money in a savings account earning 1%, you are not simply earning 1%. You are forgoing whatever that money could have done elsewhere. That gap between what your money earned and what it could have earned is a real cost. It just doesn't appear in any statement. It doesn't trigger any alarm. It doesn't show up as a loss in your account. It accumulates silently in the background for years. And by the time most people notice it, they've already paid it. Warren Buffett has described inaction in investing as one of the most common and most costly mistakes ordinary investors make. Not panic selling, not chasing speculative trends, just never starting, just waiting until things felt certain enough. Buffett has pointed out repeatedly that certainty is not a condition the market ever actually offers. The people who waited for certainty in 1975 missed the next decade of returns. The people who waited for certainty in 2009, after the financial crisis, missed one of the longest bull runs in modern history. Safety in those cases wasn't protection. It was a very expensive form of paralysis. But the real cost of playing it safe isn't measured in percentages. It's measured in choices. Imagine two people, same age, same income, same starting point. One of them feels uncomfortable investing. Every time the market moves, it feels like confirmation that staying out was the right call. So she keeps her savings liquid, conservative, accessible. She tells herself she'll invest when things settle down. The other person is uncomfortable too. She doesn't love volatility. She doesn't feel certain about anything. But she invests anyway, not because she's fearless, because she understands that discomfort and actual danger are not the same thing. 10 years later, the difference between these two people isn't a number in a spreadsheet. It's a set of options. One of them has options. She can consider leaving a job she's grown tired of without it becoming a financial emergency. She can absorb a car repair, a medical bill, an unexpected expense without it throwing her entire life off course. She can think about what she actually wants to do next instead of what she has to do next. The other person can't. Not because she made a reckless decision that backfired, because she never made any decision at all. Safety cost her the one thing money is actually for: freedom of choice. This is what the research on financial regret consistently finds. Financial psychologist Brad Klontz has spent years studying the emotional relationship people have with money. One of his most consistent findings is that the financial decisions people regret most are not the risks they took. They are the risks they didn't take. the account they never opened, the contribution they kept putting off, the investment they were going to make next year, and then the year after that. A quick pause before we continue. Knowing what to do with money isn't usually the hardest part. The real challenge is building systems that help you make good financial decisions consistently, even when life gets busy or uncertainty creeps in. That's the idea behind my book, Money Systems That Build Wealth. If you're ready to move from good intentions to lasting financial habits, you'll find the book linked in the description. Now, let's get back to the lesson. People regret inaction more than action, even when the action didn't work out perfectly, even when things got hard, even when the market dropped. The person who invested and watched their portfolio fall 30% and then recover still tends to feel better about their choices than the person who never invested at all. Your brain won't tell you this. Your brain will tell you that the cautious choice is always the safer choice, and sometimes it is. There are genuine financial risks worth avoiding, high-interest debt that compounds against you, speculative bets that aren't backed by any real understanding or research, products designed to extract money from you rather than grow it. These are real dangers, and they deserve the skepticism your instincts offer. But most of the financial caution people practice has nothing to do with those actual dangers. Most of it is the general, ambient discomfort that comes with uncertainty. And uncertainty is not the same as risk. Uncertainty is just the condition of not knowing exactly what will happen next, which is, to be clear, the permanent condition of every financial decision that has ever existed or ever will exist. There has never been a moment in financial history where the outcome was guaranteed. The people who built wealth didn't do it by waiting for that moment. They did it by learning to act in the presence of uncertainty rather than waiting for it to disappear. The financial writer Morgan Housel makes a distinction worth holding on to. He separates the cost of investing, which includes volatility, occasional loss, and the psychological discomfort of watching numbers move, from the cost of not investing, which includes inflation eroding your purchasing power, missed compounding, and a future with fewer options. Both paths have a cost. The question is which cost you're choosing to pay. Most people focus on the visible cost of investing and never account for the invisible cost of not investing. But the invisible cost is just as real. It's just better at hiding. Consider what inflation alone does over time. The purchasing power of money held in cash declines every year. Not dramatically, not all at once, but consistently. A dollar that sits still loses ground. This isn't a theory. This isn't a worst-case scenario. It's how money works. Playing it safe with cash isn't neutral. It's a slow, guaranteed erosion dressed up as stability, and the compounding effect works just as powerfully in reverse. Time is the variable that matters most in long-term financial growth, not perfect timing, not picking the right stock at the right moment, just time. Every year that passes without putting money to work is a year of compounding that doesn't happen. And unlike a portfolio that drops and recovers, a decade of waiting can never be reclaimed. You can recover from a loss. You cannot recover lost time. There's a concept in behavioral finance called status quo bias. It describes the human tendency to prefer the current state of things over any change, even when the change would clearly improve your situation. The current state feels safe because it is familiar. But in financial terms, the status quo is never actually standing still. Your purchasing power is being eroded. Your options are narrowing. The gap between where you are and where you could have been is quietly widening. The status quo is moving against you every single day, and it does so without ever announcing itself. Research by Shlomo Benartzi and Richard Thaler on retirement savings found that one of the most effective ways to increase contributions wasn't to convince people to save more right now. It was to commit them to saving more in the future through a program they called Save More Tomorrow. Why did it work? Because committing to future action felt less painful than immediate action. The instinct to protect what you have right now is so powerful that even giving money up in the future felt easier than giving it up today. That's how deeply wired this instinct is. And that's how much financial ground it can cost you when it goes unexamined. So what does this actually look like in a real life? It looks like the person who puts off opening an investment account for 3 years because they want to learn more first. It looks like the person who moves money into a savings account every month instead of a low-cost index fund because the market feels uncertain right now. It looks like the person who decides to invest next year when things are more stable without realizing that there is no version of next year where things feel completely stable. Stability as a financial condition has never been permanent anywhere. Waiting for it is another way of paying the hidden cost. It looks, in other words, like most people. Because this is a human instinct, not a personal failure. The discomfort is real. The uncertainty is real. The reluctance is understandable. But understanding why you feel it is exactly what gives you the ability to make a different choice. The people who build financial freedom over time aren't people who feel comfortable with risk. Most of them don't. They're just people who learn to distinguish between the discomfort of uncertainty and the actual presence of danger. They learn to ask a different question, not is this completely safe, but is the cost of not doing this greater than the cost of doing it? Most of the time, when you're avoiding starting, when you're waiting for certainty, when you're parking money somewhere it won't grow because it feels more stable there, the answer to that question is yes. The cost of not doing it is higher. You just can't see it the way you can see a loss. The hidden cost of playing it safe isn't visible on any statement. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel urgent. It accumulates over years and decades in the form of a slightly smaller life. Fewer options, less flexibility, less freedom. Not because you made a terrible mistake, because you made the comfortable choice again and again, and the comfortable choice compounded too. The question was never whether caution is sometimes wise. Of course it is. The question is whether the caution you're practicing right now is protecting you from something real, or whether it's just protecting you from the discomfort of uncertainty. Because that discomfort is not danger. That's just what growth feels like before you've named it. You made the safe choice. The question is whether safe was actually the safer choice. If you found today's video valuable, the next step is money systems that build wealth. It expands on the principles we've covered today and gives you practical systems you can use to build wealth consistently over time. You'll find the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more content on investing, money psychology, and long-term wealth building. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.